3000.
What is doing? My name is Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by the first ever guest with their own face on their hoodie. Cax, thanks for coming, man.
Hey, man, how are you?
You've come here, man. The merch, I like the merch.
This is one-on-one. Like, you can't even cop this. So
Really?
Not that I mean, who else wants a picture of my face on there?
It is one of one. Well, faces are what you're known for, though.
Yeah. I love a bit of like character design and that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna get deep into that, but let's start at the beginning, man. Tell us about where you grew up. I believe it might be not in Melbourne, a little bit further out.
Yeah, not quite 3000, 3350 Ballarat. Born and raised there. I did live here for a couple of years in the mid 2000s, and then went back to there. But I feel like Ballarat's like older brother, I guess. Like, and it's only like hour down the road on the V line. So yeah.
It's almost like a suburb of Melbourne in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Almost. Like it's close.
I mean, even now, like the way they've changed the fares and stuff, it's the same price to go to Melton as it is to go to Ballarat. It's just the time. So yeah.
So you're out there growing up.
Yep.
Are you into art at an early age?
My nan was big into art and got me into art as well. And she was like more traditional painting and that sort of stuff. Yeah. She was big into like ceramics was the thing at the time. And like, you know, you go and sit around with a bunch of old ladies painting pots. And she used to take me along to do that. And so, yeah, sit around like, you know, it might be like a plate or something. And I'm like just painting on the plate or whatever. And then, that was kind of my first introduction to art, yeah.
And then you took to it naturally to start with?
I don't know if I was naturally. I don't feel like I was that good at it. I was just obsessed with it. So I kind of I willed myself into it.
What, like something that your nan... I was talking to someone yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you like country music? And I'm like, because my nan loved it and she played it a lot, so I've never liked it.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like with my nan stuff, I'm like, that's not cool. What made you gravitate to what your nan did like?
I think there was a lot of encouragement. It was like, you know, you do something and they're like, oh, that's good. And they give you encouragement, even though it's like, it's trash. But they're propping you up. So you're just like, oh, this feels good. So I want to do more of it.
And the old ladies have always got lollies and stuff as well, don't they?
Exactly. So, yeah. I was bribed into it, essentially.
So you're painting with your nan.
Yeah.
You're painting plates and ceramic stuff.
Yep.
And then how does that evolve to where you are now? That's a big jump.
That is a big jump. I guess time is I'm getting old now, so it's just relentless, like time, like spending a lot of time at it. But yeah, I was like obsessed with it. And then like once you go to school, they're like, oh, this person's into art, so they encourage you to go down that track more. And I kept going down that track. And,
so were you known as a kid at school that was good at art, or again just obsessed with it?
Probably obsessed with it. I remember distinctly in high school, like first year of high school, actually to backtrack a little bit. So I grew up in like a very like strict religious, like conservative sort of family. And we're very insular. So outside of like church and stuff, I didn't really know anybody else until like high school. And that was like the world kind of opens up a little bit. And then you realize like in this small like pond that I'm in, I'm okay at it. And then I got to high school and there was this dude who was like drawing like cartoons and stuff in my class like the first week. And I was like, this guy's so good. It was almost like a jolt to the system, like, you know what I mean? And then it's like almost like fight or flight. Like if I want to keep going at this, I need to like level up a bit. Which is kind of, now I'm thinking about it, that sort of scenario happens a lot like throughout the rest of my career. So yeah.
Right. So you're there. And I guess not just art, but if you've come from a religious insular sort of circumstance, you get to high school, you realise, oh, wow, everyone doesn't live like this. Yeah. Because you kind of think everyone does at that stage, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. It was very like, things that were like you thought were normal were not like the norm. It was very eye-opening. Very.
No, because I've never grown up like that, but I could imagine. And I remember going to school and you'd get kids that have come from a certain area and they're like, oh, wow, this is different. You're like, we just do things like this. And they come from a different upbringing. So I guess that's going to open your eyes to a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And like the level of insular we were in was like very, very insular. Like, so we went to a religious school, and then on the weekends you'd go to church, and all their socialising was within the church. So it was like, except for like your next door neighbour or whatever, you barely knew anybody outside of that sort of community.
It's almost cultish.
100%.
No, look, I don't want to talk bad on it because I don't know the exact religion or whatever, but it sounds very much like they're controlling you.
Yeah, I watched a thing about cults a while ago, and they were like talking about like the markers of what is a cult, and partway through the like mini documentary thing or whatever, they're like, all these experts are like, so you're probably wondering at this point, what's the difference between a cult and a religion? And then one of the guys in the thing, one of these like cult experts, is like, there's a saying that they have that cult plus time equals religion. And it's kind of like, if the longer the cult is around or the religion is around, the more like the rough edges and harshness of it sort of wears off a little bit. So there's a little bit of flow in and out, and less like, it's less insular. But at the end of the day, to me, there's still a lot of markers that are very similar to a cult. So,
Well, because cults are generally about control and everything. And when you're told just to socialise with other people within your circle and within your same persuasion when it comes to beliefs, you're getting controlled. Were you allowed to play football or anything like that?
No. So we were Seventh-day Adventist, which is it's kind of a cross between Judaism and traditional like Christianity, and so the way that like Jewish people, like they don't sort of do anything on the Sabbath. There's no work or anything like that. And like country town, everybody plays footy on the weekends, and it was like, no, we go to church on the weekends, and we're out in nature. There's no TV, there's no working, even like music and stuff. It's like, and it depends how far, like how strict you are religiously, like how much you don't do. Like, some people take it as far as like they don't want to drive a car and that sort of stuff. They won't go to a petrol station to fuel up. Like,
that's deep.
Yeah.
So, were your parents born into it, or did they join?
No, both my parents joined. But they were very young when they got together, and it was kind of a combination of them meeting around the same time that the same grandmother got me into art was also like joining the church, and they went very deep into it. And like, it sounds like I'm kind of like poo-pooing religion, and I'm not. But like, there's a lot of positive aspects to that, and I could see that as parents. Like, they're like, oh, you know, there's a strong community connection. You know what I mean? Like the same way that you would see with like a footy club or whatever. There's a strong sense of community, a strong sense of morals. Like, you're putting your kids on the sort of straight and narrow, and so to me, it makes 100% sense like why they would take that route. Yeah.
Are you told that anything out of that, like if you wanted to reference stuff like the Ninja Turtles or draw stuff, are you told that's bad if you want to draw that stuff?
100%. Actually, this is funny. My old man took me to see Jurassic Park. I was obsessed with dinosaurs as a kid, as like most like young boys are.
Yep.
I was obsessed with dinosaurs, and Dad's like, yeah, we're going to go and see Jurassic Park. But it was kind of like this thing where don't really tell too many people at church, because it's like they have like this strict view that, you know, the world's 6,000 years old. So like, how did dinosaurs fit into that? You know what I mean? So it was like, it was very like drummed into us from an early age.
They
like,
couldn't even see the entertainment value.
Yeah. And I even see that now with like religions now. They'll kick up a stink about like the new Harry Potter film or this or that. You know what I mean? It's like magic and the spirit realm and all this sort of stuff. And they're like very controlling of like, you know, what you see and what influences you outside of the religion.
Yeah. It seems like, from someone who's never been involved, very narrow-minded though. It's like, if it's not how we believe, it's the devil.
Yeah.
You know, like
100%. Which I think that kind of informed me later in life about how I now view the world, and like, you know, questioning things and that sort of stuff. Like, I'm more skeptical, I guess, of things. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are people that you grew up with still part of that? Or
Some are. Like, I've still got friends that are in it that I still talk to, and, like, love them to death. Like, nothing against their views. Like, yeah, that's your thing, and like, I'm big on, you know, freedom of, you know, what you believe and all that sort of stuff, as long as it's not really affecting other people too much, I'm like,
More power to them,
and it's like, I don't want to cut somebody off in their journey and like where they are going in life and stuff. So
So then, from your artistic journey, you get to high school, you start opening your eyes to, okay, there's other people there. Because it's not a religious high school, or it...
No, not at all, no.
So it's very different to your primary school.
Yeah. So I went to a public school, Ballarat High, and then,
I guess you're going to get all sorts there.
Yeah. And it was like, kid at the candy store. I was just like, I'm going to hang out with the sporty kids. I'm going to hang out with the nerds. I'm going to, hang out with the smokers and like the naughty kids. You know what I mean? It was just like... And like I never really felt like I settled too much on one group. It was like I kind of wandered from all these groups. I later found out that I had ADHD, like much later. But it didn't make sense because I was like, I'm bored now. I'm moving on to the next thing. So,
but it also makes sense from a perspective that you haven't seen all these sort of aspects of society. So you're interested, like you guys play sport. I never really did that. What's that like? You guys smoke weed. What's that like? I don't know. So you're like trying to learn and pick from people.
100%. Yeah. And then like, to bring it back to the ADHD thing as well, like you enjoy risk-taking behaviour. And so like the naughty kids were like, they were predominantly who I ended up hanging around because it was always like something new and crazy was happening. So it was very
So you found a home with them, but you're drawing as well.
Yeah.
Have you been introduced to graffiti at this stage?
I'm a bit hazy about when specifically the graffiti thing sort of kicked in, but there are like a few. Actually, it's funny to veer off track a little bit. Listening to the episode with Trem. There was like him and like other people from that era. There's like that first wave where they get the, your subway art, you know what I mean? Like the movies like Star Wars and all that sort of stuff. It's just like you get that first wave of graffiti. I'm a little bit younger than those guys, but I feel like I had a similar thing in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. It was just like hip hop exploded, you know what I mean? You get like, rap was just like on the radio. I remember like hearing like Coolio's Gangster's Paradise. I was like, especially like coming from a Christian background and these guys talking about being a gangster. I was like, what?
Yeah. With biblical undertones as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And like the choir and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. I was just like, this is crazy. And then, the other thing that happened, I saw on, I think it was SBS, there's a documentary called Basic Equipment. Do you know it?
I don't know it.
Man, it's a time capsule. It's like the Sydney hip hop scene, and it was very similar to like how Style Wars was like all the elements of hip hop all together. It's just like the graffiti and the breakdancing and you know what I mean, like and like rapping and DJing and all that sort of stuff. This was like very like organized. They were like, this segment is about rap. This segment is about breaking. This segment is about DJing. This segment is about graffiti, and I was just hooked. Yeah.
And that, I have to check that out.
Oh man, it's like crazy. Like, because it started to happen, like this transition to like listening to hip hop from like what your parents listen to, and like the sort of like Christian music that you grew up around. Dare I say it, what? And it was like this sort of transition into like. Like I was saying, like exploring all these other cultures and stuff. And then, to get that documentary, because it was like, that brought it home. Like it was this far off, like American thing that was happening. Yep. And then that documentary was like, and it's happening in Australia. And I was just like,
So when you started to bring these outside interests into the home, were your parents like...
In some ways, they were very encouraging of it. Breaking, like I got into breaking, like that was the first thing I tried to pick up. So the Hype Twins with it, and like they go on to do like their magazine and all that sort of stuff. But they were breaking in it, and I was just like, I want to spit on my head, like that looks sick. You know what I mean? So I was like, get out a bit of like cardboard and like try and like replicate what I was seeing in this documentary. And man, like they were very like encouraging of that aspect of it. But I was also like picking up a marker and like trying to do the graffiti, and they're not so much into that.
Well, even the music though, like if you're playing hip hop music, are they?
Yeah, even that. So like they kind of compromised a little bit, and they would give me like Christian rap to listen to, but like Christian rap is kind of like stepped on drugs. Like it's like when you hear the real thing, like the uncut, you're just like, oh my God, this is sick. Like
I've never thought about Christian rap, but obviously it's like early Christian. I know now people get sort of like, born again, but I wouldn't. I couldn't imagine in the 90s the Christian rap. I'd imagine it'd be very shit. I don't know. Like
I mean, like it wasn't terrible, but it also wasn't great, and it was kind of like I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It was just bland. It was just very bland.
Yeah.
Like when you compare it to like especially like because gangster rap was like in the 90s was really exploding. And you compare like, that sort of like softer sort of Christian stuff. And then, for the first time you hear like, I remember Ice-T. I was just like, whoa, like this is just like nuts. Yeah.
And it's that when it becomes that sort of forbidden fruit, it becomes more interesting to you as well.
Oh, for sure. So I actually went and copped some like early like gangster rap sort of stuff. I got Ice-T's OG. There's a few other albums and stuff. And sorry, Mum. My mum found out that I was like hiding these CDs, and she got my sister to go and take them to like a secondhand store and like sell them. Which my sister then later snitched to me later. It was just like, oh, Mum was like, annoyed about these CDs and got rid of them. And I mean, to be fair, like you grew up in like a Christian household that was like very anti all that. And to bring that really like, I had like Bone Thugs and Harmony's Art of War, and it's just like a skull with like nails on it and stuff like that. Like very like demonic sort of like imagery, even though like Bone Thugs and Harmony sound like a church choir, but
their subject matter's not though.
And the imagery was definitely not. And that was what I was drawn to. It was like that these guys looked insane, like compared to what I had seen.
Yeah.
And
They were really a juxtaposition in every sense of the word. Like even Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Right?
But it's like we're gonna sing, harmonize together, rap, but then we're also gonna they're very
like
unique,
gangster
man.
stuff. Yeah. Oh God, I love to this day. I love Bone Thugs and Harmony. Like right.
So then you sneak in the hip hop records in or CDs in.
Yeah.
Your mum's not digging it.
Yep.
But then you start to think, all right, well, no, this is what I'm really about. This I'm gonna get my hands on it one way or another.
Yeah. Actually, now mixed into that was also Cypress Hill, and so we went to like a church camp, and again, this is like the black market gangster rap in the Christian community, and this guy gave me a taste of Bone Thugs and Harmony's Temples of Booms 3, and man, like. There was the combination of that and the artwork that goes along with it. So I don't know if you know Mr. Cartoon, who was who's now got like a documentary on Netflix and stuff. But that was a huge influence, like that West Coast, like
Cholo sort of artwork. It's very kind of cartoonish for the name, but he does sort of caricatures of people. The women and all that stuff.
Yeah, like sexy girls, skulls, and like that typography. Like, God, and that was like, that was another like big turning point for me. I was just like,
And you're seeing that through tattoos? You're seeing through the artwork or a bit of both?
Yeah, so like the album artwork and stuff like that. And then I would be like replicating it. So the internet was starting to become a thing, and you'd like print out like that, or I'd have like the album artwork and stuff, and I'd be like drawing it. And same with like, the classic like Wu-Tang logo that everybody did. Like I was the same with that. It was just like replicating the artwork that you got in the CD sleeves.
So, and then you are seeing some cool stuff in a lot of that sort of stuff. Like even I think of my introduction to hip hop and going to high school, Doggy Style was like a record that I got, which I loved, and still to this day I love. And that's basically a comic book.
Yeah, that was it. And then there's like, it's the naughtiness of it as well. You find out what Doggy Style means is double entendre, and you're just like, oh, that's sick. Like, yeah, it was huge.
So you were all about all of it.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
So then, obviously, if they're trying to push you Christian rap and you're bringing home Bone Thugs and Doggy Style, like that's not Christian.
No.
Do they give up at a point and just let you do your thing?
Yeah, there's kind of, you hit your teenage years and your parents are just like, oh, well, this is the trajectory you're on, they still try and guide you the best that you can, but yeah.
And you start just drawing more and more?
100%. And then, it was like trying to like do all that sort of stuff, and then eventually like picking up spray cans. Yeah.
So was there any around Ballarat? Was there any writers that you looked up to, or were you just scribbling at the school dunnies, or how do you get the introduction?
For a few years there, it was just me doing that, and then like I started to like formulate my own sort of tags and stuff. My early tags, one of them was like Fumar, which was I got going back again to Cypress Hill. My God, I got their greatest hits in Spanish. They got a song. I don't know if I'm butchering the Spanish here. Yo quiero fumar, which is like I want to get high. I think fumar is like smoke in Spanish.
Why did you get the Spanish version?
Because I was obsessed. Oh. So, and actually, shout out to Sarah who worked at Sanity. This girl that like I semi had a crush on, she was working at Sanity, and she's like opened up, like they had like a catalog, and they were like, we can order you anything from around the world, because I was like, I wanted like Cypress Hill, and they didn't have any Cypress Hill in stock. And she's like, oh, come and have a look at this book. It was like a massive phone book, and I was just like, there's all these Cypress Hill albums I had no idea that existed, and there was one that was just in Spanish, and I was like, I want that. Like, so yeah. It cost me an arm and a leg to like get it shipped from, I think it was the States, and it took like months, but I got it, and the artwork on it was sick.
So it was different. It wasn't just Spanish dubbed or something.
No. It was them like rapping in Spanish, man. And yeah, Cypress Hill, man, they got me good.
Yeah, I remember. I think when it's a Black Sunday.
Yeah.
When that came out, I got it from the local library.
Yeah.
And listened to that at my nan's house, and I remember being like, wow.
Oh yeah, man. Like
so many good tracks on that album as well.
Yeah. Which is funny. Like that was one of the ones that I sort of, because I think that was like earlier in their catalog. So I found that later. Like as I started to like expand, like I had that Temples of Booms album, and then I was just like, now I need to like start collecting them like Pokemon. So
yeah, that was my introduction to them, and I would have been about 8 or 9, I reckon.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, his older brothers had it, and he's like, you got to listen to this. And I had to wait for the library to get it, and then I got it and took it home. Like, it's so funny to think of. That's what we used to do back then.
Yeah. It's funny, like, compared to, like, what it is now. It's just like, you just Google it, and, you'll find anything. But back then, you had to really sort of, like, search. It's like, again, like, getting back to, like, these older sort of, like, hip-hop heads, like, that was that first sort of generation of like you had to like really research, and then couple that with being in Ballarat, like it was again like getting back to Trem, like you know what I mean. It was like extra hard. Like I remember him talking about like trying to get clothes and stuff. Like you couldn't get that stuff there. It was like you had to like really like start expanding and finding like new places to like look for things and stuff. Yeah.
Were there a lot of kids in Ballarat interested in hip hop, or was it very much you were kind of on the outer if you were into that?
Yeah, there was a few, not heaps. But yeah, it definitely like you saw it like gradually like get bigger over time. But yeah. And sorry, I'm gonna drink some water.
Yeah, get the water into you. So then the graffiti thing is obviously part of the whole hip hop stuff.
Yep.
And you're artistic, so you seem, I guess, if you're gonna stop the head spin attempts in the lounge room, you might be getting into more of the graph side of things.
Yeah, definitely. And then I linked up with like a couple of mates who were not really into it maybe as much as I were. They were more like into like, just like it was fun criminal activity sort of stuff. And then we used to like start like, going down the drains. I got a mate, Dicko, who we ended up going down into the drains. He lived out Sebass Way, and we went down to the drains out there, and it was just like, oh, this is like this cool spot where you can go down and nobody's there, and we can start painting.
Was there tags and pieces down there already?
A few, not heaps. The scene was still like very small back then. Like there was the odd thing here and there.
But like just a Dick and Balls or a ACDC
Yeah,
or something like that?
yeah. And Cave Clan, shout out to, was it Duggo you had on?
Duggo's been on a couple of times.
I saw that, like the more recent episode, and I was just like, man, this guy's been to Ballarat Drains. He gets it. Like, yeah, that was,
Did you go exploring or you just went surface level painting?
No, we started exploring, and then like because the more you wanted a new spot, the more you had to like explore the drains. So yeah, and it was like this great thing where it was like chill, so you could go down there and like fuck around and do something trash and nobody would ever see it if it was like
You take a torch or something because if you're going to paint, you need a bit of light.
There's a couple of spots in Ballarat that you don't actually need to.
Right.
And there's some like open air drains and stuff as well. Actually, a lot of open air drains. So yeah, we used to go into a lot of those. And then like, you'd go into like some of the underground ones a little bit and like, but you'd sort of stay towards the edges because there was enough light and stuff. So yeah, you go and paint in there. Yeah.
So you cut your teeth there. Where are you getting your supplies from?
It's kind of a combination of like, raiding my old man's tradie. So like raiding his shed or like, and the same with other mates, they'd raid their sheds or, there's the classic thing of racking. Like might have racked a couple of cans. I was never big into racking. It was just like, I went through like a little bit of a phase when I was younger. But yeah, once I started to get money, it was just like, I'll just buy it because it's less hassle.
From like the hardware store?
Yeah. But there was still like the issue of like getting paint. Actually, I racked a few from, I'm not going to name the store actually. I racked a few from a store and they had Krylon. And I was just like, oh, this is different. Because I'd seen in that, the documentary, the basic equipment documentary, somebody had a Krylon shirt on in it. And so when I saw that logo on that spray can and it associated it with that like dude in Sydney wearing it on a T-shirt, I remember clearly, I said something like, no runs, no drips, no errors. And I'm like, is that like a legit like Krylon shirt? Or was that like a writer had made a shirt? Yeah. But yeah, so I saw the shirt and yeah, made the connection. So I'm like, getting those cans for sure. And that was like a different thing. But for the most part, it was just like Aussie exports and stuff like that. And then like working out ways to modify the cans to actually do the graph with.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you've got to be resourceful. Like you're not just popping down to OB's to grab some purpose-made nibs.
Yeah.
You've got to really make it work.
Yeah, 100%. So we'd be like, busting out scalpels and we'd be like shaving down the things. So the Aussie exports have like the chisel tip. It's like adjustable. So yeah, started with like shaving them down. Actually, shout out to Steve Cross, the tattooist. He came down to Ballarat and did like a hip hop. There was like all in like hip hop weekend that a local dude who was a b-boy was putting on, and he was like, they'd got like a bunch of kids together to like all do a bit of painting. And he'd seen what I was doing, knew that I, obviously was a little more advanced than like some of the other kids.
How had he seen though? How had he seen?
Oh, so they had this thing. It was just like, just set up a bunch of boards and just like do some spray painting sort of stuff. So it was like, yeah, sorry, I should backtrack a bit. So they, JB, who's a local b-boy, had put on this thing where it was just like your introduction to hip hop. And so they had DJs. Obviously, he was like doing breaking. I think they'd done a bit of rapping, but I was not huge into the rapping part of it. Yeah, and then Steve had come down and done like the spray painting sort of workshop. And yeah, he was just like, oh, I see what you're doing there with this like letter. How about if you like pull that cap off? And what he'd done is like got like a piece of paper and like folded a few times, stuck a hole through it and put that under the cap. And that meant you couldn't press the cap down as far. And so you could get a finer line. And like once he showed me that, I was just like, oh, there's so much more we could be doing with this. You know what I mean? So I was just like...
Your mind opened up.
Yeah. Like I'd been experimenting with like pulling caps off, mum's olive oil spray or whatever, you know what I mean? And like trying putting that on. And then he showed me that and I was just like, wow, you can actually push this a lot further. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, I got really big into like experimenting with like what you could do with the cans.
Yeah, that is like the rudimental way is just to like push down as much as you can and that sort of thing. But there is using the pressure, and then you're like, it opened your eyes.
Yeah, that was a big part of it. And then like there's an element of that I think is missing from graffiti now. We might dig into this later about like technology and all that sort of stuff. But back in those days, it was very like DIY. And so you had to really explore what you could do with a can, especially being in Ballarat and not having the tools that you could see that other guys were using in other cities to get these sort of effects. And so you wanted to like find new ways and innovate new ways to get better because it's very competitive because you want to be the best that you can be. So, God, that sounds very inspirational. But like,
be the best writer you can be.
It feels like an 80s commercial. Yeah. But yeah, it's very competitive. You're trying to be the best that you can be. So yeah, it's this like exploring of the technology to, push the boundaries of what you can do. Yeah.
So did you know the other kids that were getting involved? Were they writers or were they just there because it's like a fucking skate demo and they're just hanging around?
Literally. There was like one or two that knew what they were doing as well. But for the most part, it was
Did you know those people already?
No. So I'd met them, but there's only one dude who I stayed in contact with, who also it turned out went to high school with me, Craze, R.I.P. And which is funny because there's like a bunch of like every city you go to, I feel like has a Craze. But yeah, he was a dude that wrote Craze just locally, and yeah, super nice guy. And he was like the first like graph writer that I met. Yeah.
So from that workshop?
Yeah.
So then you guys started to be mates and hang out?
Yeah. So we started to be mates and like hang out and stuff. And then I was kind of like got a bit caught up in like the whole criminality of like, because I wasn't just doing graffiti. I was also into like thieving and that sort of stuff. And so I got expelled from my high school. I broke into the school. Cops came, a whole long thing, whatever. And so that kind of removed me from one high school, and then I had to go to another high school. And there I met more graph writers. So yeah, it was kind of like, it just kind of grew. But yeah, I never really stayed too much in contact with a lot of them. Like, I feel like a lot of graph writers are kind of insular as well. Like they like to be alone and all that sort of stuff. Me included, I think, in some ways. And so, yeah, I wasn't huge into the social aspect of it, but yeah, there's a few like key people that, yeah.
And when you were getting a real taste for how the whole culture works, was there people around that you'd see their tags and be like, I wonder who that is? Or was it literally like pretty much a clean slate?
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, it was a clean slate, but then like, you'd see people come down from Melbourne occasionally and see their stuff up. And I was just like, oh, they're obviously a bit more advanced. Like Accused from AFP was like one that I noticed like fairly early on. And he'd sort of like done a couple of little things here and there. I saw like it's like a scratchy like in the back of like a phone or like payphone or something I saw once, and I was just like, you could tell by the way he'd bent the letters and stuff. This guy wasn't from around. He was like a bit more advanced again. And I was just like, oh, sick. Yeah. So you'd still see like little influences from outside of Ballarat.
He was probably just on the phone one day doodling.
Literally.
But to you, you're like, there's more writers.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And then like once you start like traveling to Melbourne and you'd see like you get the train, like the V line down into Southern Cross, and the closer you get to Southern Cross, the higher the quality got, especially in those days before they buffed a lot of it. And like
it was Spencer Street Station back then.
Yeah. And then like they were like slashing it and stuff like and stuff. But like, yeah, like especially like AFP, like that whole crew was like a big influence on like me. Especially like, is it LK and Accused? Like they do like characters and pieces. And I was like, because I had like a bit of an arts background, I was just like, that's sick. Like the piece is dope and the character's dope, but like especially characters, I was just like, man, that got me. Yeah.
Yeah, he did a character for me up there.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's sick.
I'll show you afterwards.
Small world. Small world. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So then you I guess that is interesting. You're coming from Ballarat on the V line, and you're like few scratchies, a few tags, whatever, the AC/DC, and then you slowly, and then it starts to pick up, and then you're just like, I'm immersed in it by the time you get to Spencer.
Yeah, for sure. And so then, from that point on, I was just hooked.
And so then you're actually doing graph, not just in the drains?
Yeah. So I guess, from that, I just grew and grew. And then, like I said, I'd also started to discover that, like, there was this thing called going, like, all city. I got a copy of Style Wars. And I think there was, like, like all the terminology. It was like all city and kings and toys, like all these sort of like graph terminology. And then it was just like this thing of like concept of all city is like going like all over like every single train line. But Ballarat, there's one train line. At that time, there was one train station. You know what I mean? Like, it was like the freights and stuff would roll through, but like that was it. And so it wasn't really, you couldn't really go all city. Nobody was going to see it.
No one was going to care.
Yeah.
Except for the people that own the buildings.
Yeah, exactly. I know, I mean, like, tracksides get bombed a little bit and stuff, but it was not like even now, it's still not that hardcore along like the train lines, like for Ballarat specifically. There's a lot more now, like, and I feel like we instigated a lot of that. But so for me, it was kind of like the drains were like the first sort of network that, we'd started sort of painting on. And then I was like, oh yeah, cool, but nobody sees it in the drains. And then I was like, start like looking for like better spots, you know what I mean? You get kind of sick of drains and stuff. So I was like, bandos. So start like hunting out of bandos.
There would have been a few around there on the outskirts, I'd imagine.
Yeah. I mean, even in town, there was a few. There's like a big silos that they pulled down, and I probably painted like 10 different things in that silos, like inside that building, and before they demolished it. And then you kind of like getting the bug, but it's like you don't want to stagnate, so you keep going bigger and better. And I'd linked up with a few other dudes. And there was this one guy who wrote Vast, and we really sort of connected. But then it was like you get competitive about it. So this is like, and like there wasn't that many like active writers as well. Like there was like a couple of other people like floating around and stuff. But at that specific time, a few of like the dudes that are around my age and slightly older had sort of slowed down. And it's like, I feel like this is like this sweet spot where you hit around like 16 to 18 where most graph writers just go nuts. And then like they have their couple of years and then they just sort of stop. But me and this other dude were just like, we just like, and it was this like friendly sort of rivalry. It was just like, he's done that, now I need to do this, or you know what I mean? It was like constantly like trying to one up each other.
Not together. You're not teaming up. You're going out separately.
No, we were friends. So we'd sort of met up somewhere, and as graph writers do, you sort of like you notice somebody's wearing something or whatever, and you're like, you're a writer sort of thing, or like somebody introduces you. I know this other dude's into graffiti stuff. But once we sort of linked up, it was just like. Yeah, just constantly trying to like one up each other.
Mm-hmm. Within the Ballarat area.
Yeah.
So that's going to make waves within the community pretty quickly, because it's that they're going to be like, it looks like Melbourne. We don't need this sort of,
100%. Like, so yeah, we start doing that, and then like we graduate to like getting bigger and bolder spots, like start hitting like rooftops, and you know what I mean. And so we've done the drain network, don't have a train network. The next thing is like, well, we've got a bus network. So it's just like, all right, we're going to look at these, like get out the bus map, and it sprawls out like a spider, like the same way a train network does. So these are the places you're going to get targeting. And once you start, like, you're going topside and, like, going, like, you know, quote unquote, trying to go all city, then the community starts to take notice. And then when the community starts taking notice, the local paper starts taking notice. They start writing articles. The local, you know, government and the cops and that start taking notice. And
not to downplay it, but there's not a lot going on in
not
Ballarat,
in Ballarat.
So it's easy to make some waves.
100%, 100%. Yeah, like, and yeah, that and the combination of like our like sort of like rivalry, we pushed it a little bit, like a lot more than like other people had sort of done, and so that was. Yeah.
So you catch some eyeballs from those people.
Yeah.
And are you doing characters? Or you're just doing tags and pieces and throwies and.
It's funny. I kind of feel like I learnt graffiti backwards. I actually mentioned this to Accuse once. I was sort of saying like, I felt like I learnt graffiti from like I got hooked on the characters, and then I was like, well, I want to do the cool piece that goes with it. So then I started to learn the letters as well. And then, I was like, came from it that way. And then like started doing characters, trying to do pieces, need to get up more, need to learn how to do throwies, need to get up in like really high risk spots, like in the center of town, start to do tags. So it was kind of like I bounced all the way through and then back. Yeah. So like, and then once I started to like nail tags, I got obsessed with them for a while there. It's just like up there, just like, going out like bombing all night with like, your markers and all that sort of stuff. And that's when like the government and sort of like wider apparatus starts to like take notice of what you're doing. And then they're like, we need to get this guy.
So that's what happened. You were up enough that the authorities were like, we got to stop it. And I guess they probably don't care too much. It's more Joe Public that's like, they're defacing the property. We need to fix this. Yeah,
100%. And so, I'm out here like... Because that's the thing, like, nobody cares about tags. Like, nobody... Sorry, I mean, nobody cares about pieces, but, like, everybody cares about tags. It's even, like, I'll go paint in Hosier Lane and, like, some random will be like, oh, I love, like, what you're doing, but I don't like the tagging. Like, what happens when somebody tags over it? I'm like, I don't care. Like, I love tags. Like, So, and that like brings the heat. Yeah.
And so then what inevitably happens from there?
So there's a newspaper article that runs and it's like, like a 2-page spread about the local graffiti scene, how bad it all is. And the police are like...
Is it primarily you and your mate?
Yeah, like not to downplay, there was other writers active as well, but we were at that specific time the most active. And so, and like by like a dramatic measure, like we were going out like all the time. And so they posted this article and like, and you see your stuff and your friend's stuff up in this article. And that just like, it's like, match to like petrol. It was just like, oh, wow. Like, this is a level of like fame, and we're like, oh.
But it's also a small town where everyone knows everybody.
Yeah.
So are you worried that when it's there, people might know who it is?
Yes, to a degree, but like I low key sort of like that like infamy. The other dude that I'm writing with is not into that at all, and good for him because like he never copped it as bad as I did, but it was just like, well, I didn't really cop it at all. Salute to you. And
so you weren't deterred. It just made you want to go bigger and more.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm just like absolutely hooked on it, and like, the article is just like. Yeah, it's just encouragement at this point. Like, so they announced this like police operation. It's like the first of its kind in Ballarat, and they just like specifically investigating graffiti. And I was just like, ooh, awesome. Like, you know what I mean? When what I should have been thinking was, it's probably time to chill.
Yeah.
But like to me, it was like another challenge. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going even harder. Like,
Yeah, the cat and mouse sort of thing.
yeah, and
So,
I kind of I like he sort of had this view of like I wanted to do tags at that point. I wanted to do tags that good that people liked them. So I was like really, really obsessing over tags. So it's like, like practicing different styles and all that sort of stuff. And I was also like at school, like studying graphic design and stuff as well. And so like the combination of learning about letter form from a formal perspective and from a graffiti perspective, it was just like, yeah, hooked. Yeah.
Did people come up to you and be like, "Oh, is that you in the paper?"
There was a few, like a couple of like the scene had started to grow too. So obviously, with the more that gets up, the more people see it, the more younger dudes like get into it as well.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's a bit of a little scene sort of like getting together. And then yeah, there's
What year is this around?
Around this time must be like mid to late 2000s, probably mid 2000s. Yeah, yeah.
So there's a bit of a scene forming. You've got the fire in your belly now because
Yeah.
people are paying attention, which is sort of what you wanted in the first place.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Which is weird because I'm not really like in a group setting. I don't mind sort of playing the background, but for some reason in the art setting, it's just like I want to be like do big, bold, crazy things. So yeah, that was literally.
So then you just keep going. But there's only one way that can end. If they're paying attention, they've got a task force.
Yeah.
Which may or may not be 3 cops.
Yeah. Like you literally don't know. And like low key, I was just like, they're just assigning one dude to this to like, for like the sake of like
Appeasing the community.
appeasing the community. Yeah. It was funny. So when they raided me, they were just like, "You should have just stuck to the drains." Like,
So hang on. Before we get to the point that they raided you, you just kept going harder.
Yep.
And your mate was chilling, or he was.
Yeah. So we were getting a bit older and stuff, and we were still going out a little bit, but yeah. And I mean, actually, truthfully, probably in those last maybe like 1 to 2 months before I got raided, I was also like. We'd kind of like taken it almost, to the max as far as, I mean, not to the max, you can always go further, but like as far as like relative to the rest of the scene, we'd really sort of like maxed out. And I was kind of like getting more into like art and graphic design, animation and illustration and all those sort of things. And so, I mean, I was already always into those things, but I was getting deeper into that side of it. And like also like life kicks in, you're like worried about like, how you pay rent and all that sort of things.
Yep.
And like following a passion that you can follow for work and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, in the last couple of months, I just sort of slowed down and then, that's exactly when they raided. Yeah.
Right. So how did they build the evidence on you to know it was you?
I still to this day do not know how they worked it out. I blame it on myself for like too many people knew who I was. And I suspect it was just like some young kid probably got picked up tagging. They frightened the life out of him and like he spilled the beans. Because it probably took them, well, they told me, I think they'd run like a 6-month investigation into it at this stage. So yeah, they dedicated a fair bit of time to it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Did you, if you knew that was all going to eventually come to an end, were you good at like hiding your sketches or all that sort of stuff? Or you were that focused on art you couldn't really?
I kind of got a bit sloppy actually. So like, I know to like a lot of other writers, they're like, they don't keep the flicks at home, and I sort of practiced like, good like graph housekeeping, so to speak. But not like, I don't do regular housekeeping, so graph housekeeping is like, I'm bad at both. So, you'd like offload all your pics and like leave them somewhere else. And then I was just like, I kind of want to go back and look at those flicks and get them back and like load them back onto the computer. And yeah, they just sort of caught me at a time where I was not practicing good graph housekeeping, and yeah.
You had cans and everything, all this stuff.
Yeah, and I'd started doing legals as well. So that was also like, you know, you needed to have cans for like doing like legals and stuff. So, yeah, it was like, but they got me with like everything. Yeah.
Right. So they got you red-handed almost with the amount of evidence you're holding.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, truthfully, I got some bad legal advice when they raided me. I like rang a solicitor, and the solicitor was like, if they've got enough evidence to raid you, you're done. You might as well just like cop to it, which is the worst legal advice that I could have gotten. Like the advice should have been no comment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just like, all right. So when they after I get off the front of the lawyer, the cops come in and they're like, all right, so how are we going to play this? And I'm like, anything to do with me, you've got me. I'm not snitching on anybody else. Simple. And they're like, all right, let's go. And then they start running through and like interviewing you. And I'm like, yeah, telling them like, you know, all the shit. Because they've got all the evidence. They've got the computers.
They're showing you photos and everything?
Yeah, yeah. So it was a combination of the photos that they took from me and the photos that they gathered themselves. So because we'd been going so hard, they'd started like a graffiti cleanup thing in Ballarat. And when they clean up the graffiti, they take photos of it. So it's like, all right, so this is your tag. We're matching it to like all their database, you know, and they charge it. So it's a combination of what they have and what they took from me. And yeah, so that was...
So what is it? Because you hear about people that sort of get done and like, so what can they get you for? Damage to public property or?
Yeah, so criminal damage and stuff. So yeah, criminal damage
So
is the short answer.
Is that a slap on the wrist? Do they threaten you with anything else?
Jail time.
They do?
Yeah. So, I mean, to do with the amount, and this is kind of, it gets a bit grey here. So when they charged me, they wanted me to give up other people, and I was like, no. And so what they were doing is like, we're going to type up more charges until you break, essentially. And so, you know, on the night that they arrest me, they only charged me with like 2, but they're like, there's more coming. And then like, so they took my phone, like computer, all that sort of stuff. And I needed my phone back for like, I'd had a job on, and like there was text messages for like for a mural job. I needed those, like that sort of stuff. And so like I had to go back and ask them if I could get my phone back after like they'd collected all the evidence and stuff. And the cop was kind of like holding it out like bait almost, like if you give up like other people that you've been painting with, we'll give you your phone back. I'm like, well, I guess I'm not getting my phone back. And then like, you know, you get another 100 charges, and then like, you know, a month later he'd turn up again and he's just like, all right, we've got more charges for you now. And you're going to be looking at jail time if this goes to court. Is there anything you want to tell me? Anything else you want to add? I'm like, no. So it's like a phone book of just like charges. He's just like, there you go then. And yeah, we'll essentially see you in court.
So do you use that same lawyer when you go to court?
Absolutely not.
Because somebody else has schooled you by then. That was the wrong idea.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I contacted another lawyer and he was like, yeah, that's terrible advice. And then, yeah, I had issues with this other lawyer. He's like legal aid. But yeah, I won't go into, it's too long of a story. But essentially, so I go to court and you can ask for a summary of charges. Sorry, not a summary of charges, indication of sentencing. And so the cops read out like all the charges, like a summary of them. And they're like, oh, you did, you know, I don't know, bridges and like public property, phone boxes, you know, trains and blah, 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 like all this sort of stuff. And then one of the charges is like a war memorial. And my ears pricked up, as did everybody else in the courtroom, because like my parents and stuff are there. They're like, what? You painted a war memorial? And the magistrate is like, what? You painted a war memorial? And I'm like, what? I didn't paint a war memorial. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't physically say that. Like, I'm sitting down and the lawyer's talking for me. But, and then I know that there's something sus about these charges. And so, yeah, we get out and I say to the lawyer, I was like, we need to like see the actual photos. Like, what are they actually charging them? Because I was ready to go in and just plead guilty, come what may. But based on the fact that they dropped that, and they did it on purpose, because it's like, you painted a war memorial, they want the reaction out of the magistrate, and the magistrate is going to be like, jail. And so I'm like, this is sus. And so, yeah, then we had to like go back and like dig through the charges. Long story short, I found that there was like, they had done a bit of funny business. Like, I mean, a lot of them were my charges, but I'm like, I'm not pleading guilty to stuff that like, you know, like I'll cop like, you know, I might have copped a few sneaky ones for the crew and stuff, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to cop like, especially a war memorial, because like most graph writers know there's things that you don't hit, like houses of worship, cemeteries, like war memorials. You just don't do that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was like, I'm not copping to that. And so, yeah, did. And then like started to dig through the charges. And I was like, there was like double ups and stuff. Like they'd have like a pick. So, you know, do like a production essentially almost with like the other dude. And it would like be like two pieces. I'd do a caro in the middle, background, shout outs. You know what I mean? Like, and they like charge that as like, it was like 6 charges out of 1. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that's one piece. Like,
It's
you know
all
what I mean?
together. It's
Like, yeah, right. So I'm like, well, I'm going to cop it for like the hand style shout outs and the backy and the caro and 2 pieces. Like, you got to be kidding me. And so like, I'm like, no, I'm not copping that. And then, yeah, we found like the one war memorial. It was like a screen that was at a war memorial. And it was like, it was in, like I used to bomb with this like blue marker, and it was in a blue marker. And I think they were like, we can sneak this in there and, you know, like really like fuck him with it. And yeah, so then in court, like they have to go through and like strike out like all the charges that you're like not guilty of, or sorry, that they're not charging you with. So after a bit of back and forth with the lawyer and stuff, I had to get a second solicitor involved because like I'd maxed out like the legal aid. So I had to like loan money to get a second lawyer involved, go through all that. And then I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so we go through all that, and then as the magistrate's like going through like striking out of these charges, now it turns on the cops, and now he's pissed off at the cops because it's like, how did you come up with like 200 and something charges, and now it's reduced to like, it was like 89 or something like in total that I ended up pleading guilty to. And so then it went from like jail time to like, what's the max I can give you without going to jail? And it was like, community service is the max number of like hours, fine, and I couldn't leave the state. And, you know, you have to like go and check in with like Department of Justice like every month or whatever. And yeah, like everything except jail. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which at that point in time you're happy with.
Yeah. Like, I mean,
To an extent.
yeah, I mean, it's probably a bit, I don't know what the word is.
Severe?
No. In my head, I was kind of like, I'm all about this graffiti shit. I'm going to jail. Like, pig-headed. Like, young and pig-headed. I'm like...
The noble thing to do would be to go to jail and
wear
it as a badge of honour.
Yeah. Which is like, it's kind of a bit of a pig-headed way to think, like, in hindsight. But I was just like, at that time, I was just like, yeah. Because, like, they were saying to me in the interview, you're going to go to jail for this. And I'm like, all right, I'm not ratting on my friends. Like, fuck that. Like, you know what I mean?
How much jail time were you looking at? Did they give you an indication of that?
I don't know. I think the max is 2 years. I don't know if I would have.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Like, surely they're not going to do
I don't think I would have got 2 years, but like, yeah. And I'm not like pretending like I'm a tough guy or anything like that, but it was just like, I'll cop that rather than like fuck over my friends. So, yeah.
So then that happens, you get your good behaviour or whatever.
Yep.
And then where does the art or graffiti take you?
Well, it was a bit of a blessing in disguise because now it's like I can be on a podcast with my face on it. Like, you know what I mean? I can talk freely and openly about like everything that happened. And you know what I mean? Like try and help other writers who like are going through similar things. You know what I mean? Like even like I did like a workshop with like some like young like school kids, like quote unquote at risk youth, like a little while ago. And I can be open and honest about like, this is exactly what happened. You know, this is the mistakes I made. These are the things I don't like. I love graffiti now, despite, you know, all that. Like I'm still obsessed with the actual art form of quote unquote graffiti, but I can be open and say that and like not have to risk getting in trouble for it now. Yeah.
So what happens in Ballarat? Do they get their result because they wanted to essentially make an example out of someone who happened to be you?
Yeah.
They probably wanted to catch more people within the community, which they didn't get.
Yeah.
Through you.
Yeah.
And so do your crew members chill out? Or do people go harder? What happens?
I mean, some do and some don't. The other dude I was like with, he's like, nah, this is enough for me. Like that was too close for comfort. I'm chilling now. I've achieved everything I wanted to do. And like, he's in a different place in his life. He's like, wants to do other things. Like, so he chills out. But like the younger dudes, it was just like, nah, it was the opposite. Like, they were like, yeah, they went crazy. Like harder than we did for sure. Yeah.
Within Ballarat or then moving out?
Mostly within Ballarat. Some of them moving out. There's a couple of dudes who came down from Melbourne around that time too, and so they help like usher in the next generation as well, which is weird. So my tag at the time was actually, I'm not going to say it. Like people who know, but there's a Melbourne writer who has the same tag, and I didn't find out until like a few years after, you know, my illegal graffiti career had sort of like been truncated. But yeah, like him and like other writers sort of like come to town. There's a bit more of a blend. Yeah, they go a lot harder on like panels, like trains and stuff. Whereas like we weren't that hardcore about the panels. We were more like, we do freights. But yeah, we weren't really like into like the panels and stuff.
Will they keep V-line trains there?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a V-line yard there. And yeah, so there's dude's got a bit more active on the panels and stuff. But yeah.
So you guys kind of put Ballarat on the map to an extent.
Yeah, I mean locally, still like, I mean I started to meet like other writers from. The other thing actually that coincides with this is like Instagram.
Yeah.
So I get raided and then Instagram pops off and I'm like, oh, cool. I can start doing legals on Instagram and post that and then like meeting other writers and all that sort of stuff. So I feel like that probably spread Ballarat wider more than like what we did. Yeah.
It changed graffiti.
Like within the Ballarat scene, we changed a lot of things. Like I'm pretty sure we were the first to do like a stomper, like big roller piece. Massive, like huge sort of thing. We spent a couple of nights on it sort of thing. And it was just like things like that. Like I'm pretty sure we were like the first to do like full like rooftop pieces and stuff. There's like, yeah, sort of like leveled up the scene a little bit.
Yeah.
And then like, yeah, it kind of grew from there. I heard, I think it might have been Saber once say that like, who's like from LA, graffiti is like a big race, but you can't run it forever. You can only be in front for as long as you can. And that was like, yeah, that was very much...
Great way to sum it up.
Yeah. And then like something always happens. It's either like you get old, you go to jail, you get hurt, you know, there's always something that like slows you down, but you can't run it forever.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
So we're back with the new water. So with this point in time, your Instagram's a thing.
Yep.
You want to be able to do graffiti style stuff as a muralist, as an artist.
Yeah. Yep.
And because you're done, you can.
Yeah. 100%. So it was like, there was nothing to turn up with like cans and paint a wall. And it was just like, there's a level of freedom that you get from doing graffiti in daylight. Like, especially, like, the Ballarat scene is so different to Melbourne. Like, people will paint, like, crazy, like, in the middle of the day, or, you know what I mean? Like, or even just, like, doing it at night, there's, like, just, like, the glow of, like, the street lights and stuff. It's even brighter in Melbourne compared to Ballarat. Like, it's very dark, very quiet, and if somebody calls the cops, they're there very quickly. Like, I hear the scene's even crazier now. Like, they've got, like, drones and stuff, like, with thermal imaging and all that sort of stuff down there. It's nuts. But it's like they've got, like, an abundance of, like, cops and stuff to, like, chase that stuff down compared to, like, what we were doing back then. So, yeah.
They always find a way. The kids will find a way, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. I don't know. It's the same thing. It's like the challenge, the bar gets a bit higher, the challenge is higher. And you know, it's your ingenuity and creativity to, like,
Some of the first generation people I talk to, they're like, the yards didn't have fences, you know what I mean? And then they go to fences, and then they cut holes in fences, and they put cameras and people figure out how to get around the cameras.
Yeah, then they say secchies and stuff. They 100%.
always figure out a way.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks, oh, that generation before me had it so good.
Yeah.
But the older guys now are like, I don't know how these kids do it these days. You know?
Yeah.
It's always different.
Yeah. And I mean, like, that aspect of it, I really love. Like, I love, you know, creativity. It's literally like having creative thought to think about, like, you know, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get in there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that way of thinking can apply to so many aspects of your life once you get older. Mm-hmm. I think I heard Tom, is it Gerard?
I always say Tom Gerard, but he says Jared. So
like, I think I was listening to his podcast once, and he was sort of saying, you know what I mean? Like, you have this, like, graffiti mind. It's just like, you know, of, like, getting into places and doing things. And it's like, a creative way of thinking. Yeah.
Even with this podcast, I take a graffiti mentality to it.
Yeah.
Because I think, okay, no one knew who I was. How do I do this? You got to do it. Repetition. You got to keep doing it. Do more. Make the guests get bigger. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to put yourself on the map. And then after you've got there, you can't stop, because then someone else will take over. Like the race.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've got to just keep pushing.
Yeah.
I think the graffiti mentality can work for a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, it just means do it a lot.
Yeah.
Do it repetitively and try and get better.
Yeah, and learn. Like,
You never stop learning.
Yeah. Definitely.
So then, at that point in time, you're just happy to do art? Is that when you come to Melbourne? Or you stay in Ballarat for a while?
That's a good question. Oh, no, I came here for uni. So, actually, it's a bit grey here, actually. No. So, the first time I came here for uni, I was still kind of active, like doing graph sort of stuff. But I came here to study multimedia at Swinburne in Prahran. Man, like, that was absolutely sick. And so, I'm still doing graffiti, but I'm starting to think of it more about, like, doing murals and all that sort of stuff. I go back to Ballarat and go back to uni again a few years later in Ballarat. So I did, like, Cert 4 in multimedia. And then, actually, my sister passed away. I won't get into that too much, but I kind of needed a break, so I go back to Ballarat, and then after a few years, I sort of, like, get myself back together. Still going, like, that was probably when, like, the graffiti really took off. And then while I'm at uni, that's when the raid happens. And so, I'm, like, getting all these skills and, like really, really understanding, like, you know, how much there's overlap between the graffiti world and the graphic design world and illustration and all that sort of stuff. And so I start to, like, venture into Melbourne a little bit more. And obviously you have to come down here for, like, I discovered, like, I think Giant was the main shop that I was going to. Obese was obviously around. And you'd be going around, like, you know, getting paint and all that sort of stuff. But I'm not sure when it's only, like, more recently that I've become, more Melbourne based. Like I was doing like legals and like commission work in Ballarat for like quite a few years there.
Were you
like
the guy there? Like,
yeah. And it's like also where I linked up with Murder and Travis Price, who are like, they're more like that Trem sort of era, like, you know, that first wave sort of guys. But like Trav Price on like the illustration and graphic design front, and then like Murder on like, you know, more thinking of it through a graffiti lens and stuff. Like those dudes are like a huge influence on me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then the characters, as you've come to be known for, had you developed that yet?
Yeah, so that had always gone like simultaneously with the graffiti sort of stuff. So whenever we'd have like a more chill spot, we spend a bit more time, I'd always be doing like characters. It's funny, one of the charges I got done for was Bill Bailey, the comedian. Mm-hmm. And it was like one of these things where I was just like, yeah, I wanted to do graph, but yeah, I also wanted to do like characters and character design and stuff as well. So yeah.
And they got you for it says Bill Bailey character.
I'd been to a comedy show the night before. Actually, the night of that I painted it, went back to Ballarat, and I think the tour was called Part Troll, and there's a bridge in Ballarat, and so I painted this like troll Bill Bailey under the bridge. So it was like, you know, the troll under the bridge being Bill Bailey. Yeah. And the cops did me for it.
Wow.
So yeah.
Did they have a sense of humour?
Yeah, the cops were like pretty chill. Like when they raided me, they were like, yeah. I think it's one of those things too. If you give the cops a reason, like they'll turn very quickly. And like I'd been in trouble with the cops before. Like I got done for burglary when I was younger, and the cops beat the shit out of me. You know what I mean? So like I'd seen that side of it, but you know, you young and pig-headed, and you know, I mean, actually. To be honest, I wasn't even that pig-headed. This cop just wanted to beat the shit out of me for no reason. if we're being completely honest, he's just like, young kid, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. But yeah, like when they raided me, like there was a couple of them there. So there's four of them that raided. And there was a couple of them there. You could tell they had that sort of, you know, it's like when you talk to anybody, they're just looking for a reason to punch on. But like the sergeant was like, mad, just like sensible and like no nonsense, like yeah, very like straight to the point. And I can deal with that. Like, you know, if you're straight up with me, I'm straight up with you. Like no dramas at all. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
So where does that take us on your artistic journey though? You come back to Melbourne?
Sorry, I'm jumping around a bit. No. I mean, the story kind of, because it's not that linear. Like a lot of these things are happening in tandem, like the graphic design and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for several years there, like for a long period there, I was like doing like just in the Ballarat scene, like doing like commissions, you know, paint a cafe, a restaurant, you know, this, that, and the third. And then it was it might have been 2020, the Can't Do Tomorrow festival happens. What was that? 2019, sorry.
It's all it's very hazy for everyone around that time. Yeah. 2020, 2019.
Yeah. So 2019, I get invited to do the Can't Do Tomorrow festival, which was like my, I guess, debut in the Melbourne scene. Like people knew who I was down here. Like there was like writers like that were coming down, and we do proddies and stuff together in Ballarat, and I was coming down here and painting with people and stuff. And yeah, like doing like mad legals, you know, like those cool like chill day spots where like, you know, everybody gets together and there'll be like 10, 15 writers on a wall, and you know what I mean? I'd turn up and deal with Caro and all these other dudes do pieces, and I got to meet a lot of people doing that sort of thing. A shout out to all those people. Like I've never met like really writers that I've painted with or like I don't like all get along really well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, then Can't Do Tomorrow festival happens, and it's just like, all right, now I get to really introduce who I am and what I can do.
Mm-hmm. And tell us about the Can't Do Tomorrow festival.
Oh man, RIP to that festival. That was so good. Like Taylor, who you've had on here, was there. Half the people that were here were like guests on that stuff, and it was a full like graffiti street art festival. It was phenomenal. Like, it was just like this big warehouse. Everybody got together and like, here's a spot. And I was running on the scent of an oily rag, you know what I mean? Like, first year trying to get a festival off the ground. And, there's like heaps of people, like, you're just painting stuff. They had like a freight train parked out the front, and like they had it just like covered, like with like whole cars for like as far as the eye could see, you know what I mean? Like, and like some people that, whose styles, either I'd met and were good friends with, or were like, up to people I'd never like met before, but like got to see them, painting for the first time and stuff. Yeah.
And I guess a lot of people you've connected with on Instagram, but you hadn't met in real life.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm like, I can get a bit shy sometimes. So it's like, you might be at an event and like see somebody around and like not really talk to them, but we're there painting for like, a couple of weeks sort of thing. So got to meet heaps of people. And yeah, a lot of them I'm still like chill with to this day. And then COVID hit.
Yeah. But does that, like, obviously you can't get out there and do too much, but does that help you refine your art from a home perspective?
I mean, a little bit. I feel like it's always I'm like honing my art, whether or not it was within COVID. It was more like just getting out and painting that was an issue. Like, businesses couldn't afford to pay, like a restaurant's not going to, actually, that's not entirely true. I did do one job within COVID where they were like, we're prepping for when this is over. We don't know when that's going to be, but we're prepping. And
let's use this downtime effectively.
Yeah. So yeah, I did like one or two jobs like that. But for the most part, it was just like nobody wanted to sort of like take the risk to like, I'm going to do a coffee shop or whatever. I want my wall painted before I open sort of thing. They were just like, we're just going to like wait and see where this ends up. Yeah.
Especially in Melbourne where it's like it would open, close so much. It's like there was no certainty in a time of no certainty. It was even less certain.
Yeah. And actually to answer your question, like me moving to Melbourne, that was when that also happened, was like during COVID, which was phenomenal because it was like there was no traffic around. So it's just like you could just like drive up where we are. It was like there's no way you could drive up today and like park out the front and load the things. But it was just like it was a ghost town. Like we could just like drive in and like unload all their stuff and
So then you start painting, like obviously you're a bit of a regular down Hosier Lane.
Yep.
So you go down there and you just go into other chill spots around the city as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't do it as much as I want. Because just having the time to do it, it's just like, I'm trying to like have a career and do work. And part of that is being like responsible. Like I can't just like back in the day I'd go out and paint in the middle of the night, like be damned if I had school in the morning, you know what I mean? But yeah, you grow up and you're like, I have responsibilities now. I can't just go out and like spend all night painting and like sleeping all the next day. So yeah, I don't get to go out as much as I would like. But yeah, I still get down to Hosier a bit. Yeah.
And so did you see after COVID that the mural work picked up pretty quickly?
Yeah, there was actually a bit of a boom post-COVID. Like it's died down a lot now. But yeah, for those first couple of years out of COVID, it was just like, work was crazy. Like, you couldn't sell enough. Like
you couldn't keep up?
Yeah. And like again, like the ADHD thing, it's like time management is not my strong suit. So it was like, and I found that hard. Like, but on the plus side of that, Can't Do Tomorrow links me with Toby from Just Another Agency. And so that kind of helped in that aspect of it, because it's like having a career in art, most artists will have like ADHD or something like that. Well, not most. I don't
a lot of them do. I talk to a lot of people, and it's a very common thread.
Yeah, it's like there's something about like ADHD and art. Like, and it's very much melts together. But like the downside of that is running a business, like doing art, is hard. Like, and it is. You are running a business, and so having somebody like a Toby, like, you know, an agency that can like help with the workload of that admin side of it is can be a very big plus. Yeah.
And they're helping you source jobs as well?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the actual percentage is. And to be honest, I don't really want to get into like, you know, what it is and what it isn't. Because it's like, it's ebbs and flows. Like sometimes there's heaps of work, sometimes there's no work. But it kind of goes both ways. Like I will be like, I'll have a client contact me because I've built up that over time. Like, you know, you get a DM on Instagram and all that sort of stuff. And I'm sorry to anybody who I haven't replied to your DMs. Like, I'm terrible at it. But in this stage now, I've got somebody that I can just like auto reply, hey, that sounds wonderful, contact Toby. And then, yeah, Toby will act like a project manager on it. You know what I mean?
Does he do the back and forth to come like with the brief and stuff, or how does that work?
A little bit. I mean, for the most part, like I'm full like creative control. But there'll be things that, you know, Toby will point out that are like, you know, you need to change this, you need to change that. You know what I mean? We'll have a bit of back and forth and stuff. But for the most part, I've got like full creative control.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a great place to be from a mural artist perspective.
100%. Like, I tell this to like heaps of people. If you can get help with your business side of things, do it. Like, yeah, it'll help make things so much easier. So you can focus on the creative side of it. Mm-hmm. Now, to counteract what I just said, you also need to be wary about what you're doing in that scenario as well. Like, there are like, I don't know what the word is, like, I'm going to say hustlers, like people that have like never like had any experience in it. Be like, oh, I can manage you. You know what I mean? Like, because they see the figures on like what's involved in a mural, you know what I mean? And some of these mural jobs can get like quite good money.
But there's a lot of overheads. You might need a knuckle lift, a boom lift. You might need paints, $12.50 a can.
Definitely. And all people see is that top line figure, and they're like, ooh, I want a slice of that. You know what I mean? Like, they don't realise this is hard work. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of expenses. You know what I mean? And you need somebody. Yeah, and you need somebody that's gonna. If somebody's gonna be helping you with it, you need honesty, like 100%. Like, yeah, somebody with integrity and honesty. Yeah. So
post-COVID, that starts to go well. It slows down a bit, but it's been constant enough for you since.
Yeah. So that's what I do now. I can happily say that I'm a full-time artist. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not without its like trials and tribulations. Like, you know, running businesses is hard. You know, you have like abundance, but then you can also have drought. Like, it's no different with like doing murals. But yeah, I'm lucky enough to say, and I have to pinch myself sometimes and remind myself too that it's like when the job gets hard, it's like I'm lucky. Like, not many people can say that they get to do this full time as a job. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's that old like saying that your worst day is someone else's dream day sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like, even if you're having a bad day, you're up a lift and you're like, oh man, people would love to do this, and I'm having a bad day.
Definitely, yeah. Like, I mean, not that you want to be dismissive of like how you're feeling. You've got to listen to your body and you know what's going on with you in yourself as well. But at the end of the day, I'm lucky. I'm lucky.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you're based in Melbourne now.
Yeah.
You're doing murals mostly in Melbourne, but you can do them in other areas?
Still go back to Ballarat a bit. Like, a lot of my network is still back in Ballarat, so I still go back there a bit. Ballarat's not really big enough to sustain you to work full-time doing murals. I mean, you see this in a lot of like regional towns. Like, financially, things can be very tough in Ballarat. And yeah, so it's like I have to charge what I charge, you know, to pay for everything, pay for, like you're saying, like all the expenses and all that sort of stuff. And you can't always do that just in Ballarat.
Yeah. But you enjoy being in the city, though.
I love it, man. Like, I either want one of the two extremes, like either like being like, you know, like out in the country, like, you know, like my grandparents had like a bit of acreage and stuff, and like, you know, you go out and like tear around in like a, you know, paddock bomb and all that sort of stuff. But I also love like being in the city and surrounded by craziness and like loudness and
Yeah. It's good to have a bit of both.
Yeah, definitely.
So do you want to tell us what else is coming up for you, man?
That is a good question. What is coming up for me?
Just more mural work? Are you booked up at the moment?
Yeah, I got a bit on. I mean, the good thing about having Toby now, like if somebody wants to reach out, they're like, oh, I like this guy's work, I want to get him to do some stuff. Like, yeah, for sure. Hit me up and I'll handball it off to like Toby, and Toby will like, these dates are available, and you know what I mean? Like same with like maybe a tattooist or whatever. Like, you know, I can't like turn around and do it tomorrow, but you know what I mean? There will be a time in the future. So yeah, we can lock something in. Yeah.
And I'd imagine for you, one job leads to another one. Like when you're physically doing it, people come past, oh, I've got a cafe, I've got a florist, I've got a something.
Yeah.
But also people see, and they ask, who did that? Oh, it was this guy.
Yeah. So yeah, you kind of get known for your like quote unquote style for a bit. I was actually discussing this recently about like, you know, like the whole AI thing and all that sort of stuff. Like your style is your style, like, and the longer you do it, the more you have your quote unquote style. So yeah, not everybody. I had a job recently where people were like, and I'm pretty diverse too. Like, I could paint everything from like photorealistic flower to like, you know, a crazy graph character to like just straight up tags. Like, I can do anything. But yeah, for the most part, I have my style that people come to me and say, I want that style. Yeah. And yeah, they're the jobs I want to do the most too.
Yeah, and that's the best place to be from a visual artist perspective, because as much as you want to push yourself, you want to be doing things that you want to do. You don't want someone to say, hey, you don't do anything like this, but I know you're capable, because it just puts you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess coming from a graphic design perspective as well, I'm used to like, you know, this person wants this style, I will do this for them. So I'm pretty flexible with that sort of stuff. Like, I'm never say never. And sometimes you want to break from it too. Sometimes you're like, I'm sick of doing like these crazy circle faces. I want to do something else. So yeah, it's never like definitely I'm just like locked in. But yeah.
How do you? Because you said before you don't have a car at the moment.
No.
So how do you lug all this paint and stuff around for these large scale jobs?
I kind of worked out that like just hire a car. Like, you know what I mean? There's options around. Like for what I was paying in like insurance and rego and all that sort of stuff, for a car that would be like, if I didn't have a job in Ballarat, like, you know, and I'd have like the car like laid up at like folks' place or whatever, like you're paying all this stuff on a car that you weren't driving.
Yeah, especially living right in the city,
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, just don't need it. Like when I need a car, I'll hire a car. Yeah.
I'm kind of imagining, you know, like Redfern Electrics, where it's like on the train you've got a ladder, like 15 bags of paint, like going to the. Yeah.
Low key, I have done that a few times too. like if I'm being completely honest, yeah. But it's like, yeah, you don't always, or like. Sometimes for the first day you could like get all your gear on site, like if it's locked up and stuff, like, and just leave your gear there, or you know what I mean. There's always options. Like,
makes you more resourceful, I guess.
Yeah, again, just coming back to like that creative, like graffiti thinking. Like, yeah, I'll figure out a way. Yeah.
So if people want a mural from you, if they want a piece from you, if they've got a cool wall that maybe they want something on, they can DM you directly or go to your website, which we'll put the website in the description.
Yeah. I don't think there is a link through the website to sort that out. The number one thing to do is, DM me. And I apologise if I don't get back immediately, but I try to. And usually what I'll do is I'll like give you like the details to hit up Toby, or you can just hit up Toby directly and just like, oh, I like Cax's work on this podcast. Like,
we need some circles, we need some spheres.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people want to talk to me directly before we handball it and like work out where it's going to go and stuff. But yeah, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that sounds like a cool idea. Or maybe I'll be like, oh no, maybe this artist would be better. So yeah, that happens too. Yeah.
And that is good that you can help each other out and share the work around, because it might be something that's you can do, but it's more in someone else's wheelhouse.
Definitely. And I mean, even on that topic too, there's like, actually, our mutual friend Mitch, I helped him doing the like spotting for a couple of weeks on his mural.
In the city?
Yeah, in the CBD.
Yeah.
And like, super lovely dude, by the way. Shout out you, Mitch. Being an artist, you don't need to be the headline act all the time too. Like, there are other jobs around it, you know what I mean? Like, I have the license to, like, you know, run the scissor lift and stuff, so I can be a spotter, you know what I mean? So, and that also gives you a bit of a break sometimes. Like, murals can be hard work. Being the spotter sometimes is a nice, like, break after, like, a big job. So, yeah. And it is good. I've got friends that do mural art as well, and they're like, sometimes they'll be like, I'm going to get such and such to come help me just so I got someone to talk to for a bit. Yeah, for sure.
Because you go a bit crazy. Or I need someone up the boom with me. Just
And like, the scene in Melbourne is very, like, collaborative and all that sort of stuff. And I really appreciate and love that too. Like, I mean, like I was saying before, like, I'm pretty cool with, like, Murder and Trav Price and Ballarat. And, like, love those dudes to death, but the scene down here there's just more. Like, every week there's an exhibition to go to, which, sorry to everybody, I don't go to exhibitions, but I'll go. I find it a bit overwhelming with, like, you know, everybody's there, and I love all those people, but I find it hard to get over that hump sometimes to go to the show.
Yeah.
So I'll go to, like, on the last day of a show, and, like, where it's, like, quiet, and I'll get to chill and, like, really take in somebody's work and stuff. So yeah. But yeah, me saying but the scene is really social and great, but I'm not. Like,
no,
sorry.
but that's the other thing about artists. You said a lot of people have got the ADHD thing, but a lot of people are introverts, or a lot of people are not that out there that they want to go and shake everyone's hand.
Yeah, you might be anxiety, autism, like, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's a bit overwhelming, so I get that part of it too. Yeah, I definitely need to, like, go to more shows though, like go to more openings, I should say.
Yeah. But it's an uncomfortable spot for some people, and I think that they probably understand that. Yeah, yep. The true punters that really want to see it will go on that last day. Yeah. Anyone can go on the opening, get the free champagne. It's who goes on the last day.
That's the other thing too, I don't drink anymore, so like, it's hard to, like, get socially lubricated when you've quit drinking. So.
That is true. I know all about that. I'm doing dry July, so there you go. I know about that. And I'm 4 days in now, and I'm just finding my straps, man.
Yeah.
Any advice for me?
There's great alternatives out there.
What's the best non-alcoholic beer?
Oh, I can't even think of the name of it because I haven't really drunk. This is the other thing. So I've got, like, health issues and stuff. So the kilojoules are still a problem and stuff. So I tend to just go with, like, just a straight soda water.
Yeah.
And you get a pint of soda water. So I was just like, And I used to drink a lot of American honey with soda water. I worked in a bar for a bit, and I was just like, my go-to drink was, like, American honey and soda water. So I was just like, well, I'll just take the American honey out, and I've just got the soda water. And it's, like, low kilojoule. You're not worried about, like, putting on weight or if you've got diabetes or whatever. So that's my go-to. But yeah, there is a beer, and I can't.
Heaps Normal, is that the one?
Yes.
I've had a few of them, but there is so many alternatives now that I'm keen to try different ones.
Yeah, actually, I've got a mate that works at Asahi. I should ask him; he would better know that. But I mean, like, there's options out there. You can try. Yeah,
I've been drinking a lot of tea. Well, when I say a lot, we'll have, like, one tea a night, and that's kind of like, instead of drinking.
Are you big into coffee?
Yeah, I'll drink. I'll drink 2 coffees during the day.
Yeah.
But I just have black coffee, and then at night, like tonight, my team's playing in the football.
Yep.
I'd normally have a few beers and watch that.
Yeah.
But tonight I won't. So there you go.
I enjoy it, like, for the way my brain works. Like, I enjoy, like, having a coffee. This is a problem. Sorry, I'm probably a bit tired today because I had coffee last night, like, very late. We went to a show, and so I had a coffee and then was up till, like, 5 in the morning because I couldn't sleep. But like, a coffee, like, early in the afternoon, I feel is good. And then just, like, topping that up with water. But yeah, timing it is right. Though.
Yeah, it is. We used to go out and you'd have a bit of a late night coffee, which would, sort of had maybe some other stuff, but that would definitely help you. My mate used to call it, it's time for a disco espresso. He'd be like, kind of find a second wind after dinner when you're a bit tired when we're traveling through Europe and stuff.
Oh, 100%.
Good times, man. All right. Just as we get close to wrapping things up, is there anyone you want to shout out or anything you want to say before we get to the end, man?
Oh, my God. I feel like, how are we going for time? Shout out to everyone.
Shout out everyone.
I love the Melbourne scene. I love all my friends. I hold no ill will to literally anybody.
Man, I think we're going to have to wrap it up, sadly.
Yeah.
So I've got to get to do my fatherly duties.
Yeah,
I appreciate you coming in to take the time, man. And I look forward to seeing what Cax has got up his sleeve for the rest of 2025.
For sure, man. Cheers.
Thanks for coming in.
Much appreciated. And good work.
Thank you.